This is the VoiceOver Marketing Podcast, Episode 2. Hello and welcome to this episode of the VoiceOver Marketing Podcast. My name is John Melly, and this is the podcast dedicated to teaching in-depth and advanced marketing strategies for people in the voiceover and audio production professions. My goal is to help you make more money by showing you ways to leverage your time, charge more for your talents, and allow you to spend more time doing the things you want to do in your life. In this episode, I'm going to share some thoughts about attitude and success, and I'll be speaking with voiceover talent and attorney Derek Chappell about social media and Twitter and ways that he's used these tools to grow his voiceover business. Before I introduce Derek, I want to share an experience with you that I recently had. My wife Ann and I were on vacation recently, and we went to Antigua for a week to get away from the lousy winter we've been having here in Boston. It was heaven. It was idyllic. The temperature was 82 degrees and the sun was out, the sky was blue. People were really friendly and helpful. The trees were actually green. There were flowers. And when we returned home, we had a rather rude awakening. We had to shovel the driveway and clear the cars off from about 8 inches of snow. So welcome home. And after that, I was on my way to work, and I stopped off for coffee at one of the big coffee chains. I'm sure you know which one I'm speaking of. And if my mom's listening, yeah, Ma, I had a cup of coffee, which means I had caffeine, so I was a little wired afterward. But at any rate, I like to go to this particular shop because it has a pretty cool vibe there. Sometimes you can go to these coffee shops and the people there, the customers and the staff, they're almost too cool for the room. But not so at this place. It's pretty cool. It's got some good energy and people are pretty friendly. And there's a whole point to this. I walk in and the person behind the counter says, "Hey, how are you?" And I said, "I'm great. How are you?" "Okay, I suppose." And I kind of jokingly respond back, "Hey, you're alive, right?" "Yeah, I suppose it could be worse." And the other one behind the counter chimes in and says, "Yeah, just keep telling yourself it's wonderful and someday it might come true." And I have to tell you that my reaction was, ugh, get me out of here. Again, I'm half joking, but I came this close to saying, you could have woken up in Afghanistan this morning, but you're here. And sure, we've got problems here in America. We've got $17 trillion in debt that nobody really wants to address. But hey, you're alive and life is pretty darn good. Now, I know I don't have a clue as to what may be going on in her life. She may have a lot of real troubles, but you're interacting with the public. And when you're doing that, even if you're self-employed, you're representing your employer. You're representing yourself. And a negative attitude shared with enough clients or customers can be a real problem for a business. Now, we all have problems. I have them, you have them, we all have them. But we have an obligation to separate all those problems from when we work with clients. Save it for another time. Why do I say this? Well, since we all have stuff going on in our lives, when we bring the Debbie Downer attitude to others, we bring everyone back to what's going on in their lives subconsciously. Bad attitudes are bad energy. And if you're in business interacting with clients, people don't want to interact with bad energy. People can smell it, hear it, and see it. I'm convinced of it. You've experienced it. You can hear a smile when somebody's talking to you on the phone. You can also hear when someone's troubled. You talk to someone and you say, "What's wrong?" We pick up on that. We are hardwired to recognize fear and anger, and when we sense it, we steer clear of it. I recently heard marketing expert Frank Kern speak at a marketing conference, and he talked about the importance of hanging out with the right people to help you achieve your goals. And he had a pretty interesting example. He said, if you hang out with a bunch of crackheads long enough, eventually you're going to say, "Hey, let me try some of that stuff." And bam, you're a crackhead. Studies show that your income is the average of the 10 people you spend the most time with. We're social creatures, so we tend to morph to the groups we spend the most time with. If you want to run a marathon, then it's probably not a wise idea to spend a lot of time with people who spend their free time online in the basement playing video games till all hours of the morning while snacking on junk food. If you want to quit smoking, it's probably best to spend less time with those around you who still smoke. If you want to start making more money, then it's probably a good idea to start spending more time around folks who make more than you do. Now, making these changes can be tough to do, particularly when close friends and family members start seeing you try to make the changes. They're going to react. Some will react positively and some will react negatively, and sometimes they don't even know they're reacting negatively. And that's why it's important for you to involve yourself with groups of people and organizations that will support your efforts. Things like mastermind groups and associations can be wonderful opportunities where people of similar interests and goals can support you. Finding the right supportive groups of people to hang around with, like the community that we're building here, can be very powerful and help you achieve your goals in your voiceover business. So before we get to our special guest, Derek Chappell, I'll leave you with a couple of questions. Have you encountered resistance from friends and family when you've tried to make changes? Have you gotten flack when you've tried things to grow your voiceover business? What types of support mechanisms and associations do you belong to in order to help you reach your goals? If you have any ideas or examples or questions or comments about what I've shared with you, feel free to comment at voiceovermarketingpodcast.com. And now let's get on to the part of the program where we meet our special guest, Derek Chappell. Welcome back. My guest for this episode of the Voiceover Marketing Podcast is Derek Chappell, who is a professional voiceover talent. He's from the rolling plains of Ottawa, Kansas, just 45 miles southeast of Kansas City. Derek's clients include McDonald's, Amateur Sports Network, Keffer Mitsubishi, among many others. And Derek began his career behind the mic as the MC for his 9th grade talent show. And I guess that's all it took. Derek was a play-by-play announcer for football and basketball games at Ottawa University, where he attended college, for the campus radio and local radio stations. And he also worked at the local radio station in the summer as the morning radio show host when he was only 19. After he graduated college, Derek was a disc jockey in Kansas City at the newly founded classic rock station, which is my favorite genre of music. Derek's evening show was the second highest rated evening show in Kansas City, only outranked by the station that carried the Royals baseball broadcasts. So I guess that's some pretty stiff competition, Derek. And then Derek went to law school in 1993. Since then, he's represented hundreds of clients in the state of Kansas who've been injured during on-the-job accidents. And while practicing law full-time, Derek has continued to work behind the mic, providing voiceover services for numerous clients and businesses. He also writes a popular voiceover blog, and that's one of the reasons why I have Derek on the show today. And he's active in a number of voiceover organizations and social media groups. And you can find Derek's website and links to his social media sites at DerekChappell.com. And Derek, you spell your last name CHAPPELL.com, correct?
That's correct. There is no E on the end.
Okay, very good. And your website is thevoiceofyourbusiness.com, which is a terrific URL. Congratulations on snagging that one, Derek.
Well, thank you.
Derek, thanks so much for taking time out of your schedule to be here today.
Hey, it's great to be with you. I hope everything's good in Boston. I know here in the Midwest, we're finally feeling spring. Got all the snow that's finally melted away, and a few birds chirping today, and it's going to be about 50 degrees, so we're on our way, hopefully. I
heard a cardinal whistling in the backyard this morning, and I thought, oh, cool. That's here.
Always a good sign.
Yeah. Whenever you hear the cardinals singing, you know it. So you and I met via Twitter. Really, and maybe Facebook, but I've been blogging, and you picked up my blog, and you do some really cool stuff with social media, and you Scoop It, I think, is something that you use quite a bit, and you're really an aggregator of a whole bunch of different voiceover blog content, and I was really impressed with it, and candidly, you've been very generous in promoting some of the articles that I've written out on your Twitter network, and you have, how many followers on Twitter now?
Oh, gosh, on Twitter, I'm almost to 900 now.
Okay. How long did it take for you to get that?
I started on Twitter in January of 2009, and I had no idea what I was doing at that point.
Okay.
Like most people that were diving into social media at that point. I got onto Twitter just because, I was one of those lemmings. Everybody else was doing it, so I got on it too and really didn't know what to do with it at first. And then after a while, I started to find friends in the voiceover business who were also there. And one of my early mentors in the social media experience, as everybody knows that's online as well, is Dave Cavassier from Las Vegas. And Dave kind of taught me a few things to get started, and then really what I've done with my Twitter profile and to try and get more followers is just follow people I find interesting.
Okay.
People, both in and out of the voiceover business. I would say most of my friends on Twitter are voiceover talent, but I have a lot of people, family and friends as well, and other interests that I have that don't have anything to do with voiceover. I think it gives you a pretty well-rounded experience on Twitter. But I love Twitter more. That's probably my favorite social media avenue. Mm-hmm. I call it Facebook Lite.
Okay.
Because it's just, to me, it's not as heavy as Facebook is. It's not. I don't know if that makes any sense or not, but it's just a great way to receive information, share information, a quick way. I'm kind of a little ADHD kind of thing going on too, and so it's 140 characters is all I need, man. I don't need a bunch of paragraphs. I just need give me a shot here so I can see what's going on. Give me a headline, give me a link. That's all I need. So
yeah,
that's one reason I love Twitter, and you have used it immensely as of late.
Yeah. Before we dive into that whole thing, I actually kind of want to hear a little bit. I quickly went through your bio, and you were very gracious to send over something more in depth, and I certainly don't want to shortchange you in any way, but, I think everybody's kind of interested in their story and how you got, obviously the 9th grade MC talent show thing is, my grandfather gave me my first radio when I was a kid, and I plugged it in and fell in love with it. But, everybody's story, while they're similar, they're always fun to hear. How did this all happen for you? And then the law school transition, and then we'll dive in real quick if you could.
Okay, well, I don't know how interesting this may be to anybody else, but my story here in a Reader's Digest version is this. At a very young age, when I was in grade school, I wanted to be Walter Cronkite. I wanted to be the guy. I wanted to be the guy on the news, reading the news, telling you what the news was. And when I was in grade school, and the teacher would have the reading classes, and she'd have us read out loud for the class, I was always the kid with my hand up first, highest. Please pick me, pick me, pick me. Because I just love communicating and reading and sharing.
Yep.
And it got to the point where the teacher finally pulled me aside one day and said, "Please don't raise your hand anymore," because nobody else was raising their hand. So I had to kind of give that up a little bit in grade school, but it just progressed, and I just loved speaking. I think I got that from my mom, who had a lot to say and talked a lot, and I heard her. And got in when I was in 9th grade. They had a talent show. I had no talent whatsoever, other than being behind the microphone. So I thought, well, perfect, I'll be the MC. And, that was my talent. So from there, I got into radio at that point in high school, just dabbled a little bit, went to Kansas City, found a guy named Joe McCabe at KY102 in Kansas City, which was a big, big rock station here in the Midwest in Kansas City at that time. And I just asked him, I said, I want to get into radio. What do I do? And Joe said, just practice. You got to get behind the mic, be comfortable, do as much as you can. And so I took that advice to heart. I started doing PA announcing for our local baseball in the summer, anything I could do. And then finally, when I went to college, landed a spot on the campus radio station, and then I had a buddy here in town that owned the local AM and FM station. So I hit him up and said, "Hey, what can I do?" And the fire was stoked from there. At that point, you're 19, 20 years old. You're working in a small station. You do everything.
Sure.
I everything from splicing tape, cutting spots, on air, pulling news wire. But I learned a lot about production back then. The old style, of course, again with the grease pencil and the splicing and things like that.
I knew I liked you, Derek.
Some listeners who are a little younger might not have a clue what I'm talking about, but the old school guys like you and me know what that means. And again, just got the Beaver continued and ended up luckily on as a disc jockey in Kansas City at the Fox 101, which is a classic rock station back then. It was only about a year and a half old, so it was. Even though it was old music, it was new and fresh, and really loved that. And it's funny, I ended up working with Joe McCabe, the guy that gave me the advice when I was in high school.
Sure.
He ended up working at the Fox for a short period of time, so that was kind of a full circle, fun thing for me to get to work with Joe for a while.
Very cool.
So then, in the middle of that, though, I had a great offer to go to law school. Again, a lot of my friends said I was making a lateral move from disc jockey to lawyer. But went to law school and just have continued on in the voice field ever since, and practicing law, and I've had the luxury of being able to do both. So it's been a lot of fun.
Excellent. What I'm taking from your story is that, and it's pretty much the advice that I give to people who ask me the same question: how do I get in radio, or how do I do voiceover? And it's like, show up. And, just put yourself in situations where opportunity will present itself. And
no question. You've got to put yourself in that position. And like Joe told me years ago, you got to practice. And that way, you're ready. When I got out of college, I did an internship at the Fox before I got the job, and the program director there, a guy named Denton Marr, when I went in for the internship, he said, "So what makes you want to work here?" And I said, "Well, this is what I've always wanted to do."
Right.
And he said, and it was about 3:00 in the afternoon, I was sitting in his office, and he said, could you go in there on the air right now and do what that guy's doing? And I said, yeah, I could probably do it better.
Ooh, good for you.
And it was just a matter of I had prepared to do that. I knew, and I had confidence in myself because I had practiced and prepared. I'm like, yeah, no problem. I could do that. And so, from there, it just snowballed. So I think the preparation is key. The practice is the key, and finding out what works best for you and running with it.
Good for you. That's awesome.
Well, thanks.
And I think the same thing is kind of nice dovetail into social media. It's a new thing. I don't know how old you are. I'm 46. And so
I'm just a touch older than you.
Okay. So you and I are in the same wheelhouse.
Yeah.
And I have frequently said in the first episode, I talked about this briefly. I have one foot in the door of new technology, which I think is fascinating and very powerful. But at the same time, I have a foot in the old door where, I used to write my papers in college on a typewriter. And it was one.
What?
Yeah. I had one person ask me at the station, it's like, what did you do your papers on? I said, it was a typewriter. And I went to the University of Massachusetts at Amherst, and my sister did too. And we had one typewriter between us. And so the network that we had was walking up and down the hill to our dorm and vice versa. So whoever had to use the typewriter last schlepped it back over to the person who needed it.
And those weren't light either.
No, but it had a self-correcting ribbon, and you actually had to plug it in to make it work. But
wow.
Yeah, so I shared that with somebody, or I had some kid ask me, did you guys have nicknames in college based on what your email address was? And I said, oh my God, I'm going to say something like my dad. I said, we didn't have email when I was in college.
Back in my day.
It's happened. But getting back to it, it's one foot in the door, one foot out the door, and I don't know about you, but there's some hesitance to getting into the technology. And I've kind of forced myself to do this because if you don't, things move so fast now that you could quickly be left behind, at least if you're not keeping current,
Well, no doubt. And there's two schools of thought with that. And you've probably seen this as well in some of the social media sites you've been on. There's those that say it's just a giant time suck. There's no return on investment. What's the point? And then there are those that say, here's what it's done for me.
I'm kind of in the former category. It's like, what's happening here? But I'm starting to see the benefits of it. Look, I've met you, and I'm starting to get some information out there to other folks about different marketing techniques. So go on about what it's done for you.
Well, there's a couple of things it's done for me. First of all, from the business part of my voiceover business, what it's done for me is, it's put me out there. I have been found, obviously, through my website, my blog, and some of my social media from clients. It allows my clients to see and hear what I do. I think in today's age with the technology and social media, it's not going away. And I think if you're not there and you're not participating,
right.
You're just losing one potential avenue of business.
Right.
You've got cold calls, that's fine. You've got a website, that's fine. But there are other avenues in Twitter and Facebook and LinkedIn. There are so many opportunities. And I think it's not so much that you have to do it. I think you should want to do it to be a part of your overall marketing package. I wouldn't put all my eggs in the social media basket and say that's how I'm going to get all my work.
Right.
But I think it's an important piece of the overall marketing tool that you have. And it just depends on what you want to put into it and what you get out.
Right.
That said, within the last couple of weeks, I've had a couple of jobs where other voice talent have referred me to somebody else, or another guy found me through my social media. I totally out of the blue. He called me and said, hey, I saw you on this. You and I have a mutual friend on Twitter. He said something about your blog. I looked at your blog. I listened to your demos. I think you'd be great for this thing we want you to do. So
that's
again,
terrific.
It's not how I get every job, but it's out there, and it's a way to do it.
And it's happened. It's happening, and there are some folks out there. Oh, nobody, I'm not getting something cold. Well, it doesn't matter. You're getting referrals. So what?
You're out there, and you know what? Twitter's free. Facebook is free. I mean, you log on. Yes, it takes some time to get them set up, but it's not like you're spending a whole lot of money. That return on investment. Oh my gosh, I'm spending all this money on my Facebook and my Twitter. No, really, it's a time investment, sure. And it's like voiceover. Once you figure out your own niche in the social media aspect, then it becomes easier. It's not as intimidating and daunting and, oh my gosh, how am I going to do this? But it does take time, and there's a learning curve.
Yeah.
But I think once you get past that and develop what you can do and what you want to do and just set aside your time for the day, and that's what you want to do, then I think it'll be a great tool for you. The other side, I was talking about the business part.
Mm-hmm.
The other bonus I have found in social media is it is an amazing free voiceover education. And I say that because of the people that I have become friends with, like yourself. A lot of great friends. I know, like I mentioned, Dave Cavassier earlier, Terry Daniel, Trish Pisani, Doug Turkel, Bob Sauer, all these people who I have found through social media. I ended up meeting him at one of the FAFCons in Atlanta, which was fantastic because I actually got to put a face with the name and press the flesh and say, hi, how are you?
Sure.
But I knew these people online first, and they have taught me so much just because I see what they say. From posting on their blog to Twitter to Facebook, there are so many people willing to share in this business, which is amazing because we all, a lot of us are all fighting for the same jobs, but we're so willing to share with each other that it's a free education. And it's out there. Again, it depends on how much time you want to put into it, on what you can learn, but it has helped me immensely.
Right. Yes, I will say this. The voiceover community is very generous and supportive of one another. I think that's one of the great things about being in voiceover. And, there's a lot of competition out there, and it's a very subjective business, but really there's a lot of stuff out there for folks, a lot of opportunity. And that's the nice thing about it is I think the voiceover community is a very creative community. And I think by and large, we work from an abundance mindset rather than a scarcity mindset. And I also think that voiceover folks are unique in the sense that what we do is unique, and it usually is sparked by a dream, or they're inspired by something that happened, at a young age. And pretty much everybody who's active in voiceover has had the guts to go after it despite what other people may think, say, or do to dissuade them from doing so. We're people who pursue our passions and our dreams. Even if you're doing it part-time or if you can get it to go full-time, most folks don't do that. And I think that's what drives a lot of the voiceover people is that they have dreams and they're willing to go after them.
Oh, I would agree. And I think it's that camaraderie that you see amongst so many voice talent that have had that same passion, have that same dream, and then they share it with each other. Hey, the story I told you earlier about how I got where I'm at today is no different than a lot of friends that I know. They had that passion, they had that spark, they pursued it, and look what they're doing. And it's fun to share it. It's fun to share ideas. And it's out there. That's the key. And that's, you mentioned my blog earlier, and that's one reason that I started the blog that I did about 3 years ago. And really when I started it, didn't quite have an idea what to do with it. I didn't want it to be just a, hey, look at me. That's the last thing I want to do is a, hey, look at me, look at me. What I have developed now over time with my blog is, and I learned this from Bob Sauer, who's one of the first blogs I ever read when I started back into voiceover really full, doing this in about 2007. Bob had a niche of sharing other people's stuff. Mm-hmm. You never saw Bob say I or me. It was always, hey, my friend so-and-so did this, check it out. Hey, my friend so-and-so did this. Or here's some advice that, I'd be willing to pass along. Mm-hmm. And I thought, what a great way to share and develop friendships in this business is to share other people's successes and their stuff. Yeah. And that's what I've developed on my blog is, on weekends, I've kind of developed this top voiceover blog post of the week. And what I do is I just take what I see from the week, from the blogs that I read, and I list them. And I do that for other people that may not have the time or may not be as social media savvy to dive in and find all these blogs. I'm willing to share them with everybody because they're awesome. I learn from them, so why not pass it along?
Well, I'm learning from you. I was fortunate to have some good advice early in the social media wave that kind of came and says, get on all these different things and at least reserve your name. Because I'm not the only John Melly out there. There aren't a lot of us, but there are other folks out there with my name. I actually had a guy email me. He said he Googled himself and up came my websites. And then he emailed me, he says, John Melly, this is John Melly. But, it taught me that the person who gave me the advice to reserve your name on Twitter and Facebook and all that kind of stuff was right. And
no question.
The question I want to ask you, though, how do you balance the time so that hours don't slip away from you?
That's a good question, and that is something that everybody's got to consider when they get onto it. But as far as what I do with Twitter is, to be honest, I run through a separate program called Hootsuite. I don't know if you've heard of that or not.
Yeah, I have.
But Hootsuite is how I use my Twitter program, and it allows me to do a number of things, which is you can put in a number of different social media pages and post right from Hootsuite. For example, I can post on my Facebook page, my personal page, or my business Facebook page right from the Hootsuite program. I can time tweets to go out at certain times during the day, which is very beneficial because, I don't want to have to sit there all day and post something. I can post 4 things, 5 things, 6 things in the morning, spread them out during the course of the day, and they go out at certain times. So it's a great tool like that. I've had people say, man, did you just sit on Twitter all day? Because you post this stuff at different times. No, I time it. I look at it in the morning for maybe half an hour, put them all in, time it, and they go out during the course of the day, which is very beneficial.
And is Hootsuite free?
Yeah. Well, there's Hootsuite and there's Hootsuite Pro. Of course, you can pay for an advanced version, but I haven't found any reason to do that.
Okay.
So it's free, and it's very beneficial because you don't have to sit on it all day if you want to post things. You can set out, times, and they go out later automatically. But with Twitter, the other thing I have set up on my computer, and I'm in front of it all day, whether I'm at my law office practicing, I'm always online anyway, or at home, I've also got a program that runs through Firefox. It's called Youno, Yoono. And what it does is it puts a strip on the left side of my screen that I put in my social media pages. I put Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube on it. And what it does, it's just a rolling scroll of those pages and what's being posted. So at any given time, I can look over there and say, oh, hey, John just posted something on Twitter here. I see it. There it is. Maybe I want to share that. Or it's a link to his blog. Let me pull it up and check that out. So that's a good tool that I use as well. I don't obviously sit there and stare at it all day, and I miss a lot of things, I'm sure. It's nice to be able to have that. For some people with ADHD, like I have sometimes, it's not really a good thing.
I was going to say.
Oh, look, squirrel. And then you're off. All of a sudden, you're off looking at, cats in India on a, who knows what you just clicked on. But, but if you use it right, it's there. The other thing I use is and everybody knows now probably with the Google Reader going down, is a program called Feedly.
Okay.
Feedly allows me to plug in blogs and websites from people, and then it keeps track of them. And so like once a day, maybe twice a day, I'll look at my Feedly page, and that's where I list all these blogs that I follow to find the posts. So, it's not like I have to sit on the computer all day and go through all these different pages and try and find all these things. There's a lot of tools, if you find them, that can help really consolidate your time and what you do.
Now, how do you use it as a research tool? I mean, you talk about, you see things that are of interest to you with regard to voiceover, but, do you limit that as well? It's like, you say, okay, I'm going to look at 2 or 3 links and that'll be it for the day, or because you can, I'm an information junkie too. I like to consume things, and I can see myself going, and then it's 8:00 and I've still got 10 scripts to read before the clock strikes midnight, and my wife's like, where are you? Twitter.
Yeah. Well, I think the key is to your social media, you got to be disciplined. Yeah. You got to be disciplined in saying, okay, I cannot do that now. I have a script to do, or I've got this to do, or that to do, and you just got to get away from it.
Okay.
But if you find these tools like the Feedly and like the Youno and things like that you can go to later and say, okay, I'm going to set aside this 20 minutes or 15 or 30 minutes or whatever. It's all consolidated in one place for you, so it makes it easier.
Interesting.
But I think the discipline of time is very crucial, because all of a sudden, it's midnight and you go, oh, crap, I got all these things to do, and I haven't touched them.
Yeah.
But I love the fact that you can tie it all together. You can link your Facebook to your Twitter, so if you post something on your Facebook business page, it goes right through your Twitter as well and goes out that way. You can do things like that. Again, much easier. You don't have to go to 2 different sites. What I've tried to do in finding my niche is I love sharing everybody else's info because it's free, it's out there, and it's kind of developed into what I do. I set up I think you're on it now. It's VoiceOver Biz Pages on Facebook. And what it is, it's simply a news feed of nothing but people's VoiceOver business pages.
Now, did you set this up?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. No, I don't know if I am on that.
You can go to VO Biz, V-I-Z, VO Biz Pages. It's on Facebook.
Okay.
You can find a link to it as well on my blog. But what it is, it's just a news feed of nothing but business pages, Facebook business pages from our friends. Your business page, my business page, Terry Daniels' business page, anybody. Yeah. And that way you can look through a newsfeed of your friends' VO pages, and you don't have to look and see what somebody's having at Starbucks in your regular newsfeed,
Yeah.
It's simply VoiceOver business pages. And everybody's kind of, that's a big groundswell over the last number of months is you got to have a business page on Facebook. I don't really know to what extent I've received any return on that investment as far as business. But it's another great way to get your stuff out there and have people see it. And what I thought I don't want to go to everybody's business page separately. That's a big time suck.
Sure.
So I found this way on Facebook to set up these interest pages where you can input which pages, you want to see. So every time I find somebody's business page, I throw it on that link, and now anybody can just scroll through that, and it's nothing but VoiceOver business page.
So is this something that you administer and that you go out and find these things? So it's not like, let's say I say, oh, hey, I want to link to this thing. You're the one who's doing that, right?
Yeah, I set that up, and all you got to do is subscribe to it, And once you subscribe to it, and it'll be on the left side of your Facebook column there, and it'll be under interests, I think it's what it's called. You click on that, and it's going to take you right to it, and you're going to see what everybody posts today on their VoiceOver business page is going to be right there. It's right there for you.
Wow, that's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, very cool. How many business pages do you think you have on that page now?
I think right now we've got 123.
Wow.
Something like that.
So that's a lot of great stuff
it's
there.
a great way to keep up. Like you, I have developed a lot of friends through Twitter and Facebook that I've never met.
Right.
But I feel like, we're good friends, obviously, and I want to see what they're up to. What are they doing in their business? What are they posting today? Things like that. And I thought, I found this way to do it. I thought, what a great way for everybody able to be, see what everybody else is doing. So it's there, and you can find that link on my blog as well.
Excellent. And give out your blog address right now.
It's thevoiceofyourbusiness.com/blog.
Excellent. Thevoiceofyourbusiness.com/blog.
Yeah, you can also find
I'll put that in the show notes too, Derek.
That'd be great. And you can go to my Twitter profile, which is at Derek Chappell, DerekChappell. And on my little bio there is a link to my website, which will also get you to my blog too.
Excellent. Yeah. Now, I have to ask, we got to watch the clock here, but I have two questions, basically. What are the kind of things that you tweet about, aside from, obviously, the links and the sharing and your top 10 blog posts of the week? I understand that. But are there other specific things that you will put in a tweet? And secondly, if you could give us maybe one or two really good strategies to use Twitter. One, I guess, would be like an etiquette thing, like don't do this on Twitter or you'll really annoy the heck out of people. And another one that maybe you could share that's like, wow, that's really a good tweet. I want to share that with everybody. What's that? Can you answer those things for me?
Well, sure. I think, first of all, on Twitter, Facebook, either way, post things that, like you talked about earlier, I don't want to see what somebody's having at Starbucks, or I don't want to see another picture of a cat, whatever. Think about it before you click send or tweet or whatever. Is that something you would want to see? If it's something you would want to see or see somebody else say, share it. If it's something you don't, think about it. Nobody else is going to want to see it either. So I think as far as etiquette goes, don't, if you're going to be seen by not only your own voiceover friends, but potential clients, you don't want to be complaining about this or bitching about that client, or, you got to be smart about it.
Oh, yeah. I mean, because it's out there forever.
Oh, yeah. So, etiquette is very important.
Yeah.
Because you don't want to say something about somebody bad and then all of a sudden it's retweeted by all your followers, and then look, what has that done? You can really sink yourself fast.
Oh, yeah. And you never recover.
No. So I think you got to be diligent on what you post and be sure it's what you want people to see. As far as things that I tweet, again, I love to share whatever anybody else has on that I would find beneficial and that I think anybody else might find beneficial. So I love to retweet things like that. If I find interesting stories or voiceover things or videos, I'll link to those. But I think also you got to have a little bit of personal on there. I've learned a lot about you and some of my other friends on Twitter just because of some of the personal things they post. But again, you got to be careful with that.
Sure.
But it's a great way to know people and get to know what they do as well. I tweet sometimes to my kids on there, my wife, my family. So you got to be a little bit careful about that too. But then I think that goes with any social media that you're using. Is just be careful with it. And if you have any concern before you push send, think twice about it. Then once you send it, you can't get it back.
No, you can't, can you? And no. That's the thing, is it just goes viral.
There's negatives and positives to it, but I think if you're just diligent, and again, I guess the golden rule, don't post anything you wouldn't want anybody to post about you, then don't do it.
Doesn't it all come down to that?
It really has.
It really does come down to...
Some people get it, and some people don't.
Like they say, it's the golden rule, and it's like if everybody just did that, everything would be so much better, but that's ideal.
That is.
It's not reality, but well, we try and make a reality in our own ways in our day-to-day interactions, don't we? We try, exactly. Sure. Exactly. I tell you what, one quick story is something I found online. This is actually on one of the online casting sites. We talked earlier about my law practice, and I had one interesting story is I got an audition one time. It was a private audition for, and I opened it up and looked at it. It was for a law office I was dealing with against in a case at that exact time. Yeah. And they were doing some web video or something for their law office, and I got a private invite for that. I went ahead and passed on that one. Yeah. I thought like a little conflict of interest both ways there. Sure, yeah. But you just never know what's going to come along. I mean, of all the sites out there and all the people that could be cast, I get one for a law office I'm
fighting against at that given time. So
was it the same case?
No, it wasn't about that case, but it was the same office. I was the other attorney on the other side worked at that office, and I thought, well, how weird would that be if I'm doing their web video?
Yeah.
And here I am fighting him in court that same day. I thought that might be a little conflict of interest. So you never know. You got to keep diligent about it.
Gosh, it just goes to show it can be a small world in so many ways.
Very small. Very small.
Derek, this has been a lot of fun. I don't want to take up more of your time, and you've been very generous with your busy schedule to be on the program today. Before we leave, do you have any parting bits of wisdom? And then also, if you could share with everyone your web addresses, your blogs, and
Sure.
other ways that people can get in touch with you. Well, I'll obviously put all these links in the show notes as well, too. But
well, that'd be great. Yeah, I mean, as far as advice, when it comes to voiceover, I'll be first to admit I'm, this is a learning process for me as well. I by no means hold myself out to be, in the upper echelon of the voiceover business. I'm no Joseph Regano or Bo Weaver or Tom Kane or any of those guys. Hang on a second, I just dropped some names I got to pick up. But I mean, it's a learning process, and you can use social media and you can use the friends you've met to learn quite a bit. And there's a lot of free info out there. And I would say if it's a passion of yours, if it's a dream of yours, and you want to do it, do it. You only go around once.
Right.
And you don't want to say later, gosh, I wish I would have.
Right.
And that's kind of what got me back in it. I've been practicing law for a long time. Hadn't really done a lot of voice work, but a little bit kept my hand in it. And 2007, I decided, hey, if I'm going to do this, I really want to pursue it. And I flew out to San Diego, and I met with my great friends, James Allberger and Penny Abshire, and they've really been my mentors ever since. And I'm just so glad I did, because I would have always thought, what if I hadn't? What would have happened?
Well, I couldn't agree more, and there are two things that I just want to say to you. First of all, you've got a great voice, and there's no reason...
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, no, you do. You've got a great, articulate, clear, crisp voice, and I think you have a lot of success, obviously, by the list of clients that you were able to... Yeah, sure. And the other thing is that you've talked a lot about getting free advice on the various social media sites, but the other thing that you've done is you've invested in your education too. And I think people need to be willing to do that as well. I do that on a monthly basis. I still go to training, and you've obviously done that, going to James Allberger and Penny Abshire's workshops, which are terrific, and they have that voice conference that they put together too, and I have not attended that, but I hear great things about that.
I would recommend that greatly. If you can attend, I went to Voice 2008 in Los Angeles. Now they had Voice 2012. I couldn't make that one. I know there's going to be another one coming up here in about a year.
Yeah.
You talk about a great way to meet people and learn so many things.
Yeah.
Get to that. If you can get to one of the FAFCons or FAF camps that are coming up, Amy Snively puts that together, and there's some fantastic people. I've made some great friends at both those conferences that I wouldn't have met otherwise. Maybe I've known them online, but I wouldn't have met otherwise. And so many of those people now, I can just pick up the phone and call them and say, hey, I had a question about this or idea about that or whatever, and so willing to share, and it's just been so beneficial to me. So any of those kind of things I would highly recommend.
Yeah, it's always good to go to conferences and to take workshops. I mean, I go to a couple of marketing conferences every year. Yeah, you just never know what's going to happen when you meet people. And that's really what it's all about. And that's what Twitter's been and Facebook has been great, because I never would have met you. And
I tell you, I'm honored that you wanted to even hear my story and talk to me. I'm humbled by that, and I really appreciate the opportunity. And I look forward to more of your podcasts in the future and see who you're going to talk to and what you're going to do. And you and I will still hook up on Twitter and see what's going on.
Yeah, well, it's been great connecting with you online, but also on the phone, and maybe someday we'll actually meet in person too. And I hope that happens.
I look forward to it. You can find me at thevoiceofyourbusiness.com. Also, DerekChappell.com will get you there as well, and that'll link you to my blog, and all of my social media links are on there as well. And be more than happy to say hi, and I'll just keep sharing what I see, which is a lot of info from a lot of people that are more well-versed in the voiceover business than I am, but I'm more than willing to share that for everybody as well.
Well, you've been a great resource online, but also on this podcast as well, and I really want to thank you again for taking time to be here, and I wish you every success with your voiceover career and your law career and your family as well, Derek.
Well, and same to you, John. I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Well, that was a lot of fun. What a great guy. And he had a lot of great information to share with us, and some great resources too, so be sure to check out the notes on that. Well, that's it for this episode of the VoiceOver Marketing Podcast. If you liked this podcast and you thought we had some good thoughts to share with you, please subscribe to it at www.voiceovermarketingpodcast.com so you'll get notices of new episodes, and please share it with your friends and colleagues in the voiceover world. Also, it'd be a huge help if you'd like this podcast and rate it on iTunes to help keep it near the top of the list. Also, feel free to share your comments and questions about this episode and topics you'd like explored in future episodes at voiceovermarketingpodcast.com. Also, if you'd like more information on coaching and mastermind group opportunities where we focus on growing your business, feel free to drop me a line at my cyber assistance email address at mike@johnmelly.com. Thanks for listening. And now go out there and share your voice with the world.